morning, it's Pastor Dick here, and we are in our study of Exodus. This is lesson 12. If you're following along online, you can get on www.ministrytoday.org and you'll find our documentation and our videos. So this morning, we are having difficulty with my screen behind me, so we don't have it. But we're going to go ahead and video this anyway. This morning we're looking again at the 10 last plagues, but specifically at Pharaoh and that difficult passage that talks about God hardening Pharaoh's heart. We asked the question, was it unfair of God to harden Pharaoh's heart? There are some of us that want to take Pharaoh's side and say, well, it's not really fair that God should judge him if God hardened his heart, and therefore he hardened his heart and didn't let the people go. Why should he be judged for doing what God wanted him to do in the first place? And that's a good question, because it does cause some confusion in people's minds, and we tend to go from that and jump to conclusions that are not necessarily biblical. So this morning we want to look at some biblical principles here. Last session, I gave you a long list of an inductive study and how to do that study. Asked you to look through chapter 7 through 12 and identify those times in which it said Pharaoh hardened his heart or God hardened his heart. We will find that there are 19 such references. 19 times God referenced Pharaoh hardening his heart or God hardening it for him. Out of those, if you do the list properly, you'll find that 9 of those, it was Pharaoh hardening his heart, and 10 of those, it was God hardening his heart. So the natural question is, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did Pharaoh harden his heart first and then God harden it more? Or did God initially harden it and then Pharaoh hardened his heart in turn? And those are difficult questions. Now, let's begin by looking at Pharaoh's hardening of a heart. We sometimes assume that everything was normal before God began this process of hardening Pharaoh's heart. But if we look at the scriptures carefully, we will see that in the beginning, when Moses first approached Pharaoh, Pharaoh was very adamant, and that word adamant comes from the word hard. He says, I will not let them go. I do not know your God, and I will not let these people go. And then he turned the screws and made the people of Israel make the bricks without straw, made it very difficult for him. So the indication there is that Pharaoh's heart was already hard toward the things of God, especially what he said when he said, I do not know your God. And when Pharaoh says, I do not know your God, he is rejecting God, his authority, and his word.